Thank everybody for coming out this morning. What we're going to talk about this morning is first-person view, or FPV, and it's a relatively new part of the hobby. And what you've got is an onboard camera with a video transmitter, and goes down to a downlink, the receiver over here to a big monitor screen, but the novelty part of it is using the set of video goggles. So there's a lot of different things involved with first-person view. First of all, the guidelines that MAC is coming out with, we're hoping will be done this week, which will be basic rules for flying first-person view. You need to use a buddy box, and the spotter has to be a qualified pilot, and we're recommending that it be done at safe flying sites. The planes right now are this big, but people are getting into bigger ones, into hexacopters and the stuff. Chris and I are using the hexacopters or quadcopters, but there's a lot of different things, like on board with the radio transmitter. Unfortunately, we're using the same channels as some of the amateur fellows, and we're actually required to get a ham license for the power levels we're using. This particular radio of mine is a 910 megahertz. There's only one channel in the 900 that we can use. 1280, 1.2 gig, 1.3 gig, 2.4. We don't recommend using 2.4 if you're using 2.4 on your radio. And probably the one that I'm eventually going to switch to is what Chris is using, which is a 5.8 gigahertz. You've got a choice of 8 channels to use instead of myself, one channel 900. Well, today Peter and I can't use video at the same time because his big hexacopter's got 900. So I'll shut mine down, or vice versa. We can look at, and then it goes to either you can use a big screen TV or a set of video goggles to fly it, and you actually feel like you're right inside the airplane. Now, going further than that, what you can display on the screen is you get your GPS coordinates. It'll display voltage, your onboard voltage, on-screen display, and it'll even give you an arrow how to return home. Now, when you've taken off, if you've got good GPS waypoints, this little gizmo here, if you lose your signal from the radio, it'll actually return you to home, and it'll circle above you, and it'll give you time to land. Now, you can use a GoPro camera as a signal down to see what you're flying, but you can't get the full resolution of data because of the bandwidth of the channel. You can't, but some of the high definition stuff, it's a better picture than this. This isn't a bad thing. So I think what we'll do is we'll hook everything up, and Rob and I will fly. You want it, and sooner or later we'll try the goggles. So were there any questions? I've kind of glossed over everything a little.
I get a question for you.
Yes.
You mentioned about spotter.
Yes.
You're a qualified pilot.
Yes.
You're flying with a buddy box. Your co-pilot, as it were, and the primary and secondary pilot, does one of them act as a spotter, or you need a secondary spotter?
No, the person on the buddy box, the master,
Is the spotter.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're hoping we're going to be able to relax that. All these rules that will come out within a week or two fall under Transport Canada, and they're very happy with the way we've set things up. In fact, the U.S. is following us. We're taking the lead on this. And competent people, they'll only need a spotter. They won't be tied to the buddy box, and that will be the next step. And I'm sure that'll happen. You know, I've seen some young kids fly, and the buddy box was just decoration. You didn't need it. But the requirements are from Industry Transport Canada, and we've got to follow their guidelines because they control a lot of things we do. Now, from the commercial aspect of it, when Peter wants to do a filming, he has to apply to Transport Canada with a special flight permit to actually do filming, so that aircraft operations are not impacted. And they're very, it's a long process, but we're hoping for different avenues to get that paperwork down and make it easier.
The issue is flying anywhere that's not a designated airfield for us.
So, were there any other questions? There's quite a bit of equipment, the transmitter and the camera. I've got something on board here that pans the camera, tilts it. And this is kind of the size of airplanes we're using right now. And then that goes down to a receiver and a splitter and video link. So, fortunately out here we've got AC power, but Chris is one step ahead of me. He went and got a 12-volt TV, and what you see here is the antenna. And Chris, where is that item that features the panning? There's where you get two receivers, and this piece here, the antenna will actually pan and follow the airplane. It's set up so that you never, because earlier this morning, there was points where we were losing the signal. So should we, I'll set her, Rob?
One question. What's involved in setting up head tracking with the
Okay, head tracking is sometimes built into the goggles, and it's a little thing on your transmitter, and it's usually built in, and there's gyros and things, and then that pans and tilts the camera.
So the goggles then actually connect to the transmitter somehow?
Yeah, yeah, or it's just a direct 5/8, and then you just pull it off there. So I haven't done a whole lot with that, but that's a lot of the new goggles have that built right in, and the receiver is actually right in the goggles. So there's and this part of the hobby is changing overnight. So Peter and I were just talking about it in a year, and there's no standardization on connectors on videos, and sometimes the video and the audio are switched over, and there's no standard between any of the companies. That's why I've got a whole box of connectors for different things. Nothing is standard, but hopefully that'll change. But mind you, we've got servos that don't match, and mix and match. So